Welcome to Planted. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about buying plants and the various places you can get plants that should be in your yard. Now, a lot to cover here, and I thought I'd do it direct like this so I could hopefully better explain some of the nuances of putting together a nice plant collection. So, there's a lot to consider, but the first thing is that in springtime, we're all ready to get outside. And we go to a nursery garden center or those big box stores and we buy stuff in flower, and they deliberately stock it because it's in flower and they know that you are ready to put some color in your garden. That's fine. However, if you only buy plants in flower in spring, your garden will become very one-dimensional. Summer and autumn, there might not be a lot going on because you're not buying plants in flower that are available at those times of years. Here in the States, more so than in other parts of the world that I've been to, we have a 10-week window in springtime and we have maybe a 4 or 6-week window in the fall. And that's where the majority of the work is done in a yard. And if you are limiting your buying time to those windows and you're only buying plants that are in flower at those times, you're missing out on a huge range of other plants. So what I want to impress upon you is you need to come up with a list of spring flowering plants, March, April, May, summer, June, July, August, and then the fall or the autumn, September, October, and even November. So that's 9 months out of the 12. And if you are deliberately hunting for plants that have got flower color in those time frames, rather than just having a big whoosh in the springtime, you're going to get a much, much longer degree of interest over a much longer period of time, which is highly desirable. Now, to explain this and articulate it better, let's take a plant like forsythia. In England we call it forsythia, but here it's forsythia. Typical spring plant, flowers in March, maybe early April, big yellow flowers, a big splash of color. 2 weeks later, nothing. The same with azalea. They are very showy, but for a very short period of time. I don't dislike them, but they'll never be in my yard because of this short window of interest. I want a plant that's going to be in flower for months. Now, in previous videos, I've mentioned Salvia amistad. This is a really good example. It's just coming into bud now. I have it growing over there. It's just coming into bud now, which is late May, early June, and it'll flower through until November. So June, July, August, September, October, part of November, that's 6 months, nearly half the year. It'll get a heavy prune in the summer to regenerate new blooms and new branches. But this is a much better way for you to get more out of the limited space that you might have in a courtyard. So when you look at buying plants, there are some plants that you really should get in flower, and peonies is one, wisteria another. Buy them in flower, you can be sure that you get the right color that you want. But there's many plants that you're only buying because they're in flower. You don't want them other than they're in flower now. So I want to encourage you to go to garden centers and nurseries in April, May, June for sure, but keep going in the summer and keep going in the fall. And as new stock becomes available, different plants will become available for you to buy. Remember, not all nurseries, no nurseries supply all plants all year round in all sizes. They just can't do it. They just don't have the capacity for that. So certain plants are propagated at certain times of the year and they become available at different times of the year. Now, you'll be able to get lots of plants from local nurseries, but they can only sell you what they have in stock. And if they don't have it, chances are you will go without. But I want to bring to your attention mail order. Now, I've done a fair bit of mail order in my time. Some of it's very hit and miss, but there are a few out there that are truly spectacular, well worth investigating. Now, the only downside with mail order is that the plants are smaller. Now, for me, that doesn't matter because I buy my mail order plants in January, put them in my basement under a grow lamp, put them into a bigger pot, and grow them on. I might even take some cuttings. But I've got them. I've got the plants I want. Here's a couple of mail order locations. There's Annie's Annuals on the west coast. They came beautifully packed. They were on the small side, but only compared to plants you might find at a garden centre. They were healthy, and above all, they were the species and varieties that I wanted. So Annie's Annuals on the West Coast, I'd highly recommend buying from them. I would do it again. And then there's another nursery, which in the industry is very famous. It's Plant Delights in North Carolina. They've got a range of really choice plant material, and choice plant material comes at a price premium. Another one, they don't do mail order, but they are a big heavyweight in the industry. And many years ago, for 6 years, I used to consult for them. I was a trainer. I would train landscape architects and landscape contractors in plants, plant selection and plant use. And that is Monrovia Growers. Now, Monrovia have got the iconic green pots, and the length they go to produce good, healthy, vibrant plants is very special. And I happily buy Monrovia plants now, and we'll do it again. Monrovia has got the most remarkable website. You can log onto their website and it'll prompt you to put in your zip code. Now that zip code will then let the website determine your growing zone. And then it'll start to suggest plants. Maybe you want blue plants for your growing zone. Maybe you want blue plants that attract hummingbirds. Maybe you want blue plants that attract, that have fragrance. But this is a plant selector or a plant configurator, and it will help you identify 10 plants for spring, 10 plants for summer, and 10 plants for the fall. And now when you go shopping, you know the plants that you want. Perhaps it's Monrovia that grows it. Maybe it's another nursery that grows it. But it really will help you come up with a list, and you can be diligent and focused. There's no reason for you to start buying plants here and buying plants there that aren't part of a bigger plan. So Annie's Annuals, Plant Delights, Monrovia Growers. Now, something to really focus on is the zone. Once you know your zone, if you're new to gardening, it's advisable that you stay within that zone. And that means that those plants can stay outside year-round without any further protection. They'll grow healthy in the summer, they'll grow healthy in the winter. They won't die. They shouldn't die. So I've chosen plants deliberately out of my zone. I've got 6A, 6B, 7A, 7B, 8, 9. I might even have a few 10s. Because I have the greenhouse, because I have my cold frame, I can prune them back, put them into a dryer mix, overwinter them in a frost-free environment, and they're ready for next year. I love that challenge, but what it gives me is huge diversity. I'm growing plants that aren't widely available, different fragrance, different colors, different heights. I keep mentioning Iachroma. This Iachroma Empress has really impressed me, and that came from a wholesale nursery called Cartouche at cartouche.com. Little small plants. I ordered one, and because the plants were so small, they actually gave me 2 at no extra charge, which I thought was a nice touch. Potted them on, and now I've got them in matching containers. So let's just recap. You need to buy not just in the spring, but buy at different times of the year if you go to garden centers. As they get different stock in, you'll be able to greatly improve the range of plants that you've got and stop your garden being quite so monotone as a spring flowering event. Next thing is try your zone. Find your zone and choose to grow plants within it, or you can push the boundaries and go just a little bit warmer. It will give you great diversity. So now let's expand this idea of a plant palette. We're going to go and choose a bunch of plants for spring, some for the summer, and then some for the fall. Let's just say it's 10. We need to whittle that down, and this is the sort of thing that you do in the middle of the winter when you're not actually working outside in your yard. And you could have perennials as a classification, you can have vines as a classification, and then you can have ground cover. There's just 3. So you make a list of those 3 on one side, and then you've got the spring, the summer, and the fall, and then you can start to fill them in. You might add 3 climbers to your collection. 1 would be spring, 1 would be summer, 1 would be fall. You might add 3 perennials to your collection. Again, 1 spring, 1 summer, 1 fall. And then if you go for ground cover, they're a bit more of a long-term interest. but you now start to really break it up. And then the next year, you might change it. You might start to go for cut flowers, things like dahlias. And then you would add in something that's a little bit tropical, something that's just out of your zone. So over the period of a few years, rather than generic forsythia and azalea, which I mentioned earlier, you're now able to have this layered, rolling interest of plants with a long flowering period being delivered by vines, perennials, ground cover, cut flowers, fragrance, the list goes on. Don't buy plants only in springtime. Nurseries don't stock all plants all the time in all sizes. So you go to a nursery, buy lots of plants, the chances are that you'll end up with a forsythia and an azalea because they're in flower. So do buy plants out of season. The next thing is consider mail order. Get a few choice plants, buy them in early spring, maybe fit up a grow light somewhere in your house, maybe in your basement, and just nurture them. And then you'll have these different choice plants at your disposal. And then lastly, really expand on the length of interest. If a plant like the Amistad, the Salvia Amistad, can flower for 6 months, grows 5 feet high, 4 feet wide, that's a real showstopper. You're much better off having that than you are something with just a short window of interest. And finally, courtyards. Courtyards don't have grass. They should have a path, benches, lots of fragrance, a color palette of your choice. But it is a wonderful place to start to develop a choice plant palette. And I think that that's what we've got here. There's 50 or 60 different species in here, different types of plants, and increasing as I put more in the ground. But in a 1,000 square foot courtyard, having 50 or different types of plants means that you've got some really, really interesting diversity. So if you want to do more with plants, please like and subscribe. I'm going to be showing you how I further develop this courtyard into a cornucopia of floriferous, burgeoning magnificence. And I hope you like it, and I hope you enjoy me as we go through the summer. We do all find ourselves now with a bit more time than we're used to. And between baking and gardening, these are two excellent activities that can get you out, get you engaged, and reward you with being productive. Please share this with your friends, and thank you for watching Planted.